Good afternoon, and everyone, and welcome to Getting Personal with Parkinsons, our Facebook Live conversation series. I'm your host. I'm Caroline Colas, the Senior Director of Health and Wellness for the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan, and also the Program Coordinator for the Edmund J. Safra Parkinson's Wellness Program, supported by New York Health's largest healthcare provider, Northwell Health. And for more than 14 years, the JCC has been hosting programs for individuals living with PD. You can find these programs on our website at www.mmjcm.org/Parkinsons. Please see the link below in the comment section if you want to just click on that and learn more about our programs or fill out a short intake form and come join us. Speaking of joining us for the first time is JM Tolani, and I'm going to introduce you to him in just a minute. I want to also welcome to the conversation anyone who's joining us for the first time, encouraging those that are on Facebook to share, to take a moment and share so that other people can know that we're live right now and we can introduce everyone to this amazing human. JM was born in Burma and he lived in Bombay, London, and New York. He was introduced to the camera while on holiday in Madrid, and his life changed. He spent his career traveling and capturing the everyday lives of people, how people survive in indigenous cultures, and in some ways, how they'll experience quality of life that may differ from those of us in more economically advanced countries. You're going to get to see a few of his photographs today, too. In his late 40s, after noticing a slight delay in his hand while taking a photo, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. While he's no longer able to hold a camera, cell phone photography has enabled him to continue his passion for capturing life and survival in a brand new way. JM, welcome to Getting Personal with Parkinsons.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for having me here.
Oh, I am so excited that you're here. Before we get started, let me encourage those of you who are watching that if you have questions, put them in the comment section below and JM and I will answer them. So JM, tell me a little bit more about yourself. You've lived all over the world. What drew you to capturing the daily lives of people from indigenous cultures or more impoverished nations?
Well, the traveling for one. I love traveling. Enjoy being in places where most people cannot go, the very remote parts of the world, and able to see things that most people cannot even imagine or dream of, which was a wonderful journey altogether. And I remember when I went back to Burma after 41 years, as soon as the plane landed, I got off the plane on the top, and I knew I was a complete person. My heart belonged to Burma. My heart was from Burma. My soul was from India, my accent was from England, and my toughness was from New York. So I knew I was complete, absolutely.
You had arrived.
Yeah, I had arrived, yes. I finally knew I'd arrived in this world.
Yeah, you know, there's something to be said about that, about sort of having the collection of our experience define us, and then also stepping into it and saying, wow, I have learned so much from these various places that I've lived, right? It's
absolutely.
Amazing.
These 4 places have contributed so much to my life. I feel I belong to all 4 countries and not just America, India, or Burma, or London. So I feel like I owe to these places a lot than I should.
You know, it's interesting because in your photographs, what you're essentially doing is capturing parts of those worlds and then sharing them with us. In your 40s, you kind of noticed a slight delay in your hand. Tell us about your journey to discovering that you had Parkinson's.
Well, I was actually in Papua New Guinea, near Indonesia, photographing cannibals. And there was something to be concerned about because after a while you tend to be very tempting to them. So I had to be more concerned about that. But I was photographing them and I realized I couldn't click the shutter as fast as I wanted to because my photographs are all about environmental portraits, actually, of people walking in and out of the photograph. You have to be really quick and be at the right time at the right place. And I couldn't do that. I was slow in clicking the shutter, and it was causing a bit of a problem with my photographs. Mm-hmm. And then I came back to New York and went to a doctor to see a neurologist to get diagnosed, actually. And that's when he saw me walk back and forth and saw that I didn't have a swing in my right arm and I was stumbling and struggling to walk as well. And that's when he told me that I had Parkinson, actually.
Wow. So wait, let's go back. Did you say that you were photographing cannibals?
Yeah. It was,
Okay. You are the only person I've ever met that has done that.
well, I
Can you
only could
tell us a
photograph
little
for
bit
2
about
days.
that experience?
I only photographed them for 2 days, and on the third day, I had to run away as far as I could.
I guess so. Oh my gosh. Now, how did the diagnosis of PD, well, we know that you needed to be able to take pictures quickly, right? And so that was, that PD was inhibiting that. But how did the diagnosis affect your photography? Were you able to alter the camera in any way, or how did that happen for you?
It did affect me tremendously, actually. I used to carry really heavy equipment, two or three cameras at a time, all SLR, medium format, regular format as well. And I couldn't carry those cameras anymore because they were so heavy. I couldn't walk with them anymore because my leg froze for the most part, actually. Mm-hmm. And so I had to put down all those cameras and I started photographing with a cell phone, which is not the same as photographing with the professional cameras because you have developed a relationship with these cameras. Even though they're not a living being, you still have a certain relationship. You understand them much better than anybody else do because you use it for the most part. And I shot mostly in black and white. The shooting in cell phones, black and white hasn't been fully compromised as yet. Still a long way to go to improve their software. So I just didn't feel that I was getting the pictures that I wanted, but it helped me to get through my PD situation, to carry on with my passion for photography.
Yeah, it seems to me like you expressed to me before when we were talking that you have a passion for the shadows and the light.
Shadows and highlights.
Yeah. Can you say a little bit more about that from an artistic point of view, why that appeals to you so much?
I think it's just shadows and highlights create a mystery, a film noir style. Also, it tells a lot about who I am. I'm very quiet and very private person, and I like to be everything mysterious. And there's a dark side of me which is more in the creativity, but not in person actually. So I like to show that off in my photographs actually.
Beautiful, and it's the human side, right? We all have that dark and light in us. You know, JM, I would love to show our audience who may not be familiar with your work a couple of examples of your photos. Can you tell me and tell us about these pictures?
Sure. Oh, that is Coney Island, the carousel in 2003. I was very intrigued by the structure and also the lighting at that time. It was a mid-afternoon, the sun was really bright on one side and pretty dark on the other side. And I captured this photograph, which is very telling. It's the only time that I could find it empty, which was early in the morning as well. So there was nobody over there, and it looked so quiet and rested. But then after a while, after an hour or so, it became very wild and crazy, absolutely.
So about what time in the morning was this?
This was about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to Coney Island about 9 and I scouted and looked around to see what I could photograph, and this is what I came up with.
Wow, it's kind of like a spider web, isn't it?
It seems like an alien movie. That's what it seems like.
Right, and I think you have a few others, don't you?
Yes. This is the mermaid parade. I was very taken by the shadows, the long shadows in the hot 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is exactly the kind of pictures that I like to take, the shadows and the contrast. I'm very into the contrast, actually, the highlights and the shadows, which again are very mysterious and very telling as well, what New York is all about.
Beautiful. It sort of reminds me of, yeah, go ahead, tell me about this one.
This is a very interesting photograph. I was in India in a place called Calcutta. I was coming down the bridge in the car and I saw these huge pipes, water pipes, which were going to be installed underground. And these little kids were playing in the pipe because they didn't have a park to go and play to. And as soon as I came out and I said I want to take the photograph, they all jumped into the pipe and posed for me. And unfortunately, this little girl in the corner she hit her head on the pipe, and she was just crying a lot. Actually, I felt really bad about that. But I took the photograph, and I was very taken by the texture behind the kids. Very a bit ghastly, look dark, looked like you're going through a tunnel.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's what came out of it.
It's beautiful. It's very evocative and very, you can almost taste the texture, right?
Definitely, yes.
Wow. And this one.
This one is a nomadic woman, 92 years old. At that time, it was shot about 10 years ago. 2006, actually, 14 years ago. And she was 92 years old, and she had cataract in both her eyes, couldn't see at all. And she had wrinkles on her face that told a story of all her life, that she's been traveling from village to village to find work with her tribes. And first, when I went to photograph her, her daughter-in-law wouldn't let me photograph her. I said, no, you can't photograph her. And then she asked about me. And they told her that I come from the United States to photograph her. And she right away said, photograph me as much as you want. She sat in one corner, and I just went trigger happy, clicking away. And this is one of the most amazing photographs I've taken. Her name was Jiva Ma.
Beautiful.
And if you look at her earlobes, which is really extended all the way to her shoulders because she's been wearing heavy earrings, it's full of earlobes all the way down to her shoulders.
Wow. Amazing. You know, I remember a song that my father once had me listen to, and it said, "An even age cannot erase the beauty in her face." There's something
Every
intrinsically
wrinkle told a
beautiful.
story, actually.
Yeah, about this. Just gorgeous. So, besides the physical changes of the cameras, how has Parkinson's influenced what you see or what you photograph now?
Well, now I'm more inclined to photograph structures than people because it's still photography. And it's not going anywhere, not moving left or right, up or down. I'm more inclined to photograph that, but I do photograph people as well with a standing still, actually. My vision has changed quite a bit, actually. I tend to be more, more geared towards the editing process. In Photoshop, you can do so much, but I make very subtle changes as the contrast and the highlight. I try and keep my pictures as normal as possible, as original as possible. Because my photographs are mostly about environmental portraits, which is very telling of what's going on around that place. I don't like to change much on that. It's very easy for me to carry it around. Don't have to worry about the weight, which is so convenient. I remember when I used to travel internationally with I started shooting on film, regular film actually. I used to carry 60 films at a time. I used to go 3 hours ahead of the airport and go through the scanning, avoid the scanning process. So that was quite a task actually.
Wow.
So now I don't have to do that anymore. And I have to
You
freeze
don't have
them
to
and
do
take
that.
them out of the freezer all the time.
And do you find that you're leaning more towards color? Because as you said, the camera, the cell phone camera isn't as adept as you'd like in the shadows with the black and white.
I'm leaning towards the color, but I'm so intrigued by black and white. Black and white is my heart and soul, actually. That's what I like to photograph because I think it's so much telling of people, of what they've been through in life and what they have to say. Especially when I travel to so many indigenous places, people that were in very difficult situations, but they still could smile and talk about, be proud about certain things in their life. And that's what I like to photograph, the positives, actually, not the negatives of suffering. And everybody tends to do that when they go and photograph these people. I want to capture another side of them which is not seen at all. That's what my photographs portray.
It's beautiful. I was thinking about Parkinson's itself and how there's shadow and light in that, right? In the on and off cycles, the contrast between, as you were talking about earlier, and I want to hear about your dancing, right? About how you feel like your dancing replaces the dopamine that you're losing. So, is there any relationship to contrast with, do you think, for
I think
you
life
with?
is all about contrast. I think it's coming into dark and then coming into light and opening up and closing down. So there's so much of contrast. I mean, you you go through life and you see so many different things in front of you, and some things appear black and white, some things appear in color,
Mhm.
and you just pick and choose what you like and what your eyes see. We all have a peripheral vision, and everyone is capable of seeing different things at different times. And whatever you see, whatever appeals to you, attracts you, that's what you like to photograph or see. And that's so important, actually. And I've always been in shadows and highlights. That's what has captured my photograph. It's had a big influence on me in many ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And tell me about your dancing.
Oh, dancing. I couldn't be more happy in life dancing and listening to music. It saved my life in so many ways. When I was first diagnosed with Parkinson, I went through a very rough period the first 2 years. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know much about it. I was still doing a lot of research and learning about it. Then I came upon dancing, a dancer PD organization, and I've never looked back. Dancing has provided me with dopamine that I lack in my brain, actually, which I don't have anymore. It motivates me. It makes me feel happy. Gives me a lot of flexibility and mobility. If I had my way, I would only dance and listen to music and not take any medication. But unfortunately, I do have to take some medication to balance it out. I wake up every morning looking forward to going to my class, which is I do 5 days to 6 days a week. Now, the COVID, I couldn't do that as often, but now I started again. So it, it's amazing what it's done wonders for me. It's been magical, to say the least. I highly recommend it to everybody in this world.
Yeah, and I would love everyone to know that, of course, you've taken my class and
Yes,
we've performed together,
yes. It was
which was,
wonderful experience doing that with you.
oh, that was so much fun. And did I ever tell you, JM, that the people in the audience didn't think anybody had Parkinson's?
That's a great compliment. That's the best compliment you can get, actually, from anyone saying that. I've been Parkinson's for 13 years. It's hard not to notice it.
Yeah. I mean, they were like, well, was a beautiful performance, but I thought it was supposed to be with people that had Parkinson's.
Wow, that's amazing. Absolutely, that's the best thing you can get. It's truly
Yeah.
very rewarding for your efforts in dancing and listening to music.
There's something that happens, isn't there, when the music comes on and the body starts to move. And if you've been doing it every day, as you said, and really making it a regular practice, it's almost like the body goes into the zone. It goes into flow state. And I think muscle memory comes back and everything. It's almost like, the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. It's like the oil can, right? Everything starts to move, and it's really kind of a blissful feeling.
That is so amazing. Every time I go to a dance class, I sit down on a chair and the instructor will show some moves. And I'm going, no way on this earth I can do that. It's impossible for me to do that with my legs going crisscross and my hands going in another direction and my head going in another direction. And the minute the music comes on, everything just flows so smoothly and everything starts to move. And you're just sitting there and going, what happened? What happened over here? I mean, this is just magical. This is so incredible to happen, actually. And I can do moves that which I never thought I could ever do in my life at this stage of my life, having PD and being 62 years old. It is incredible that I'm dancing away with such ease and with such grace.
I agree, and I think that you're the first person that I've interviewed that has really talked about this idea of I'm going to replace my dopamine consciously. I mean, certainly others are doing it, but you've actually said that, and I think we should unpack that a little bit for our audience. You've actually said, okay, Parkinson's, we know that we lose the cells that produce dopamine, but I'm going to do activities that produce dopamine that will replace that.
Absolutely. It's also helped me to get through difficult times in Parkinson, actually. One of my most common symptoms that I have is leg freeze. It happens mostly when my medicines wear off. I'll be in the middle of the street and crossing the road, and this will happen, and which is like, how do I get to the other side of the road now with the cars coming on this side of the road? And I listen to music, and I create a music in my head. I say 1, 2, 3, 4. And I start walking, and the rhythm comes back into motion, and everything starts moving forward, and I'm able to go across the street with ease, actually. It's amazing what
Amazing.
what it can do to you.
Well, yeah, and this is one of the things that I know that Dr. Alessandro DeRocca is so fascinated with in terms of art. I mean, when we first started the program, it was all about movement and exercise. And of course, since we started the program over 14 years ago, there's been lots of evidence that exercise helps delay the onset of Parkinson's. But there's also an artistic expression, whether it's with painting or whether it's, as you said, dancing and listening to music, because the brain, especially music, it affects so many areas in the brain. There must be a way. I know they're really studying this a lot to protect or to enhance or to activate more of the brain. And it just makes sense to me that by thinking that way, you would be able to move across the street with ease.
I think as far as I can tell, the pathways in my brain just open up wide and all the messages flow through so smoothly and everything comes to be, I can get as normal as I can get when I'm dancing. Everything is, my hands are moving very well, my feet are moving quite well in coordination with my hands and eyes. Just seems like I don't have Parkinson at times. I just feel that way, which is, the minute I step out of the dance studio, everything comes back and I'm like, what happened here within a matter of minutes, actually? It's
Right.
just hard to believe that this dancing and listening to music can do that to you. And it's been proven scientifically that it opens up your pathways and your brain functions much better.
Yeah. And the idea, I guess, is just to keep dancing through life.
Absolutely. I strongly believe the reason why I'm able to maintain my dosage, which is very low at this point, for the last 7 years, is because I've been dancing so much and able to keep my mobility and flexibility going and live as normal as possible. I mean, of course, I have my limitations, but I don't let that stand in my way at all.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that one of the effects of Parkinson's is that sort of apathy or that waking up and should I move? And yet what you're saying is that you look forward to your dancing, so that helps you get started, right?
I think what also helps is having a wonderful community of Parkinson dancers and being in a class such as yours, which is so friendly and you're so helpful and make it so much fun to do this. It motivates you to do it even more than ever, actually, and push yourself to beyond your limits and get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I also want you to talk a little bit about focus. As a photographer, one of the things that my husband also does photography just, for fun. He hasn't been a professional like you, but one of the things that he will talk about is what are you focusing on, when I hold the camera? And it seems to me like you're even applying that in your life with Parkinson's. You're choosing what you're going to focus on.
That's a very interesting thing. When I first joined the photography school, the ICP on 6th Avenue, my first assignment that I had for my professor was to go photograph on the streets of New York. And some people photograph the buildings, the structures, the trees, the guns. I strictly concentrated on people. That's what I was attracted to. And when I came back, he said, this is remarkable photography. We should have an exhibition of this in the school, actually. And I knew right away people is what I wanted to photograph. They really intrigued me. And there's something about people that is so appealing, actually, in different cultures and different parts of the world. So I always focus on people more than ever because it's a story that they need to tell. And there's also a dance movement going on in the photographs. People come in all different directions. There's always dance involved in my photograph.
Beautiful. And then as you go through your day, do you choose what you're going to focus on? In other words, if you're feeling some of the symptoms of Parkinson's, like apathy or even rigidity, do you say, wait a second, I know what the antidote to this is in this moment. I'm going to put on music, or I'm going to go to my class, or I'm going to, do you do that consciously at all?
Well, the last 2 years has been a little rough because of the COVID. There haven't been any classes to go to. You've been doing a lot at home. But I do make an effort to go out and spend time, get some fresh air, and go to Central Park and walk around there or meet people. Meeting people and talking to them really stimulates my brain. I find that very helpful, actually. And sometimes I take photographs of whatever Mother Nature, which has been very appealing to me, which I'm so appreciative of, especially after having Parkinson, to slow down and appreciate life and not take it for granted, which has been a very valuable lesson for me from traveling from a photography and now not take anything for granted at all, because you never know what life has in store for you. You're dealt with a deck of cards and you got to play with it. And also Parkinson is an unwelcome guest in your body, which is, you didn't invite it, but it's there. So you got to deal with it. You can't fight it, but you can slow it down as much as possible. And I'm going to do everything and anything that I can do to slow it down. And I've been quite successful at doing that.
Amazing. We often have people that watch the show that are newly diagnosed. Is there anything that you would want to say to them?
Be positive. Don't give up your life. Try and live as normal life as possible. There are limitations, but try not to set you back. And try and educate people around you about the disease. That'll help a lot in comforting each other and understanding each other. And do some, and dance and listen to music, which is the best thing ever I can recommend actually at this point. Take a NIA class, go to Dance PD and learn how to dance. And there's so much to do in New York, especially. I would never live in New York because of this things that I have available to me.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And what about those that have been living with PD for a long, long time? Same advice or anything different?
I would give them the same advice. And I know it's very hard for them to do it because they've been having it for such a long time and they haven't been flexible or mobile. But give it a try. There's no harm in trying, absolutely. You've got nothing to lose, but you've got a lot to gain. You don't have to stand on your feet all day long. You can do it just in a subtle way, which will go a long way in the long term, actually. And just try and be positive. Don't let it get you down, because depression will take over and you'll isolate yourself and make matters worse than ever. I've been on that side and didn't like it at all and decided to change my life completely, actually. And dancing was a major contribution to that.
Wow, so you have seen the dark of the human spirit, and you made a choice to choose the light, it sounds like.
I just didn't think that was a way to live your life in darkness, actually. It just doesn't help being there. I'd rather be laughing and talking and enjoying life as much as I can. And I'm doing that, and I'm really I'm still seeing movies, I'm still dancing away, I'm taking photographs, and doing my research, and I'm trying to educate others, and do as much as I can, and helping others wherever I can. So it's been a very satisfying journey, actually.
Wow. I love how connected you are to the vitality of life.
Well, you only live one life, you might as well enjoy it.
Absolutely. JM, thank you so much for sharing your lunchtime with me. Is there any final words you want to say to our guests?
Just enjoy life. Just don't let it get you down, and just have fun as much as you can.
Yeah, I think that says it all, right? Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for this conversation, everyone. If you have any questions about living with Parkinson's, things you're concerned about, or you want to learn more about how best to care for someone living with Parkinson's, please email us. You can contact Whitney Chapman at wchapman@mmjccm.org with any questions or comments. And if you'd like to sign up for our Living with Parkinson's programs at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan, please see the link in the comments below. Fill out that short intake form. There's no reason to go this journey alone. In fact, neither JM and I would recommend that you go it alone. Join us, join our community or other communities, but stay involved, stay engaged. And speaking of that, I'm really excited to announce that we have a very special event. JM, I don't know if I told you about it. Coming up on Sunday, September 26th, we're doing our very first Broadway's Best for Parkinsons. Award-winning journalist Leslie Stahl is going to be a co-host with me, and this very first program, it'll be a new series with us, along with Dr. Alessandro De Rocco. He's the director of the Movements Disorder Program at Northwell Health, and me and Chris Jones will be our Broadway guest. And Suzanne Vega will be doing a musical performance. Our episode is called Caregiving Beyond the Obvious. We'll look at the challenges of being a caregiver and some of the things that JM and I were talking about: depression, lack of resources, and the need for coping skills. How do people with Parkinson's do that? But how do those that are caring for them do that as well? And we're just really excited. Oh, and Ian Furtado, who was interviewed by Whitney last week, will be on the show as well, and he's going to teach us how to drum again. So please join us for that. That's this Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. And then next week on Getting Personal with Parkinson's, we have Dr. Randami on deep brain stimulation and just technology, and what are we learning from the technological resources that we have out there that can help us with Parkinson's. So take care, everyone. Thank you, JM.
Thank you.
See you all next week.